Hello, this is Colin, and today I'm enjoying some Murchie's Blend blackberry tea, very British Columbian. And, not much to say about it. I've reviewed it before, it's one of my favorites. But you may have noticed in the last couple of days I've been ragging a bit on a tea company called Liptons, which started in Scotland and they're sort of taking over the world with their brand of innocuous, bland tea, which is almost the only kind of tea you can get in parts of the world, well, trips to America in particular. So I thought I'd say something nice about Lipton's, in that Lipton's, for the most part, has gotten out of the business of actually growing tea, but they still have plantations in Africa. In particular, there's one in Kenya, Kariko, and Tanzania, which is Mifindi. And by this year, by 2015, supposedly all of the teas grown by Lipton's are environmentally sustainable. They've worked with the the Rainforest Alliance, and they're the first major tea company to actually have committed to sustainable environmental practices in growing their tea, which is nice. On the other hand, I shouldn't fail to mention that Lipton's tea has had, a bit of a problem now and again, particularly in China. I don't know what it is about China, or producers in China, but they never seem to think that anything is really finished. And nothing's complete unless you put some poison in it. One of the reasons why English people stopped drinking green tea and switched to black tea was because it was discovered that, I think it was in the 19th century, 18th century, 19th century, that the Chinese were actually putting things like colored dye and toxins and things into the green tea to make it greener. Because, the Europeans, they didn't really know how to judge tea that well, so they would just pick the tea that was the greenest, so it must be the best. So the Chinese would poison their teas, and the discovery of that actually killed for a lot of people the idea of drinking green teas. Anyway, so it seems like Lipton's in China have continued this noble practice of poisoning their teas. Some of their teas were found to have toxins in 2011. And in 2012, Greenpeace once again examined some teas in China and discovered, they say, had toxins. The Chinese denied this vigorously. So I can only say, if you are actually drinking tea in China, Lipton's tea in China, that you keep that in mind. Well, another curious fact I found about Lipton's is that it's sold around the world. Like 110 countries you can buy Lipton's tea from your grocery store, but not in England. You can't, unless it's the iced tea. You can get the iced tea, but you can't get the tea bags, you can't get the black teas in England. And I wonder, why is that? I mean, could it be that people in Britain know their tea so well that they wouldn't drink the bloody stuff? Well, who knows? Oh, and I don't know. I should preface this by saying what I'm about to tell you is rather disturbing. Apparently, Lipton's has become a slang term. I think it's particularly in the United States. If anyone knows about the rather disturbing, I don't know what you would call it, practice of tea bagging, which is to drop one's testicles into the mouth of someone, usually when they're sleeping with their mouths open. And that has gotten the name Lipton's, to Lipton someone, apparently. And there's an even worse, more disgusting version of this, where one puts one's testicles in another person's mouth and then craps on their head. That is also referred to as Liptoning, or doing a Liptons on somebody, which is just really hard for me to imagine that. I didn't like tea bags in the first place, and this isn't helping. So, anyway, I think that's about... Oh, yeah. One last slang definition I found on the internet, so take it with a grain of salt. I have no idea why this makes any sense, but according to one website I went to, Liptons is also refers to a hermaphroditic orgy. I have no idea why, or how often does this term actually come up in casual conversation? I mean, how many hermaphrodites can you get in one room easily? I mean, I don't know. I think that might be a hoax. It just sounds so silly. Anyway, so next time, I hope I haven't spoiled it for you. Next time you have your Lipton's tea. But yes, Lipton's. Well, this isn't Lipton's. Lipton's. Teabagging and hermaphroditic orgies. Thank you. Cheers.